hear me? Can you hear me perfectly?
I can't hear you great.
You can. You can hear me good. Like amazing. You can hear me properly.
I can hear you okay. Okay.
Maybe I should increase my voice. Is it better the same?
About the same.
About the same. I don't know why that's happening though. Uh, Let me show you my earpiece. Okay, can you hear me? Is it proper?
Yes.
Is it louder?
Yes.
It's louder. It's louder like this.
Yes. Good.
Ah, so it's better than it was before.
Yes. Much better.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Give me some minutes. Increase. Let me change something. Okay, we're back. So is it
Great.
perfect? Can you hear me? You can see me. It's going fine.
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, Sophie. I've heard about you. I've heard like I have some great things that I've heard about you.
Thank you so much.
And you're literally just going to be introducing yourself. So the first thing I want you to do is tell this amazing audience, this African audience, who Sophie is. Okay.
Okay. So I'm Sophie Agbonkhese, and um, I am a mother of four kids, 3, 6, 11, and 13 years old. I'm a business owner and consultant. My husband and I do consulting together, and I also do it on my own. And I'm a writer and a blogger and the founder of mycupruntsover.ca, which is a website devoted to helping families flourish in their homes and in their homeschools. And I'm also a homeschooler. I educate my kids at home.
That's amazing. I wanted to really know, is there a particular reason why you started homeschooling?
hmm It was not one particular reason. It was just a lot of reasons, as well as just sort of an overall sense that that's what God was calling me into at that time. We've always homeschooled. So we're in our 9th year right now. And some of the main reasons were I had like a mostly negative experience at school growing up. Socially and academically, I found, school classrooms, they kind of have to teach sort of to the middle of the road. So if you're kind of like over here learning, if you're a faster learner or a slower learner, um, there wasn't a lot of accommodation for that in schools. I know it's a little different now, but it was really like, this is what we're going to teach. And, if you're ahead, you're just going to have to sit and wait for us. And if you're behind, you're going to have to always be rushing to catch up. But there was
Right.
not really any sort of accommodation for different learning styles or paces. So it was really frustrating for me. Um, and also just socially, I found it really hard to fit in. I did have this one teacher who was super amazing. I was in his class for 2 years when I was 9 and 10, and he was totally different from anything I ever experienced. But he homeschooled his four kids, So that told me a lot just about the school system and how much I felt like I could trust it. And then I wanted to have like a really close relationship with my kids. And
Mm-hmm.
when my two oldest kids were like under 5, they went to daycare and I worked full time, and they were gone every day from 7:30 to 5:30. I didn't see them, and in the morning we were just trying to feed them, rush them out the door, and it was really stressful. And in the night we were all exhausted and we were just trying to get them into bed, and I just felt like I was missing out on like the best part of them, all the things that they were doing every day, the things they were learning, and I didn't want to miss out on that. I wanted to be a part of it. So as my oldest daughter got closer to kindergarten, I just felt like, I don't want to put her in school. I just want to stay home with her and teach her myself. And finally, I just had concerns about like outsourcing my kids' education to people that I don't know, people I have no say in who their teachers would have been. Um, and I don't know, that those teachers have their best interests at heart. And I know a lot of teachers obviously do, but certainly not in the same way that their parents would, right? Like we obviously love our kids more than anything as their parents. We want the best for them. We want them to excel. And so I think that, if we're able to offer them that like customized one-on-one or 1-to-4 education, um, that's an amazing thing for them. Now, it's not for everybody. Like, not everyone can do that either, circumstantially. Like, I'm fortunate that the work I do is flexible. I can do it at different times of day. I can do it in the middle of the night if I need to. Not everybody has that opportunity, and not everybody wants to be with their kids that much, right? Like, it's exhausting. It's not for everyone.
I see
But
what you're saying.
pardon?
I see what you're saying, and I think what the major highlight from every single thing you're saying to me is there was a problem with the educational system, and it's not just even in my country. It's not just what's happening in Africa. It's what's going on globally. This is a pandemic on its own, right? Because like the educational system is warped on all sides. That's what I see you saying, because this thing you're talking about happened to me exactly, because I literally went, my growing up was crazy. So I went from doing so well academically, the person taking prizes like from let's just say when I was maybe 7 years, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old. So when I was to go to high school, like my first junior high, I remember so clearly I felt so bad. And then like I had like over 30 people, I was like 28th position. Nobody asked me what was wrong. Nobody wanted to know what was going on. I did not have friends, right? Right now, even as I was talking to my students, because I have like children and I coach as well, even as I was talking to them recently, I remember having that conversation with them yesterday and telling them that I would sit at the back of the class because I didn't want anybody to pick on me. Because I literally felt so rejected. And it wasn't like I was not a fine person. I was fine, right? It wasn't like I was outwardly not beautiful, but that was not the case. The case for them was this person wasn't smart like us. This person was like it was as if it was a social awkward situation for me, right? So me having to go through educators, my teachers were nasty, right? It was just such a crazy situation. And even myself, while I'm thinking about giving birth to children, like getting married and giving birth to children, one of the things that is very mostly on my heart is homeschooling. So, like, I'm really, really grateful for what you do, right? And I want you to finish your line of thoughts while you were talking about like the reasons, because it's a compilation of everything that you've been through, and you looking at it and saying to yourself that I do not want these things to happen to my children. I don't want to have to deal with this. The educational system has such a robust curriculum for group, but they don't have a good curriculum for specified one-on-one sessions and all of those things that people need to grow, especially. So I want you to talk about that more.
So I think that, schools do play a really important role, right? Because not every homeschooling is definitely not for everybody. I would never suggest that it is.
Yeah.
And schools can be a great equalizer, right? Because education gives people opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So, for families like where you haven't had maybe the parents, the grandparents, nobody has gone to college or university, their kids have those opportunities, right? Especially like here in Canada, you know, we have a fairly good public education system, right? So, someone whose family hasn't gone to university still has the same opportunities to go to school and thrive and get into university and increase their, economic social mobility, right? Um, they can do that. So school does play a really important role, and I'm in awe of teachers and what they are able to do. So like, I have nothing against teachers at
Yes.
all. Okay. They are amazing. I couldn't do what they do. To teach
Yes.
30 kids who are all at different levels, I could not do that. I can teach 4 kids who, have to listen to me. I'm their mom, right? But so teachers are amazing, amazing people. But I think, when we send our kids to school, we are, in a way, we're sort of outsourcing a huge part of their development to the teachers and the school system and to other kids, right? Like other kids are raising our kids. That's where they're getting all of their input about who they should be, how they should act, what goes, what doesn't go. And, kids are not the best people to be raising kids. Like that was really, that was really my life. I changed schools a lot in the first few years of my life. I changed schools 4 times in 4 years. So I was constantly trying to make new friends, understand a new social dynamic. How do I fit in here? How do I fit in there? Some of the schools were more maybe urbanized than others. And so, like, what was cool at one school was not cool at another school. Maybe this school, it's cool to be smart, it's cool to do well. This one, not cool, right? So, constantly trying to navigate that and say, like, okay, do I have to be smart here or do I have to pretend I'm stupid here? What kind of language do I have to use? And then I'm bringing that language home. And, there was really at that point, even, I'm 8, 9 years old, there's really nothing my mom could do at that point to stop the way I was learning to be. I was
Yes.
learning to up some really negative behaviors, and my
Yeah.
mom couldn't really do anything about it because I'm at school all day where those negative behaviors are accepted and they're okay and everybody else is doing it. And I'm learning this is what I do to be cool. This is what I do to have friends. And I come home and she's like, no, we don't talk like that. I'm like, yeah, we do. Like, this is how we talk, mom, get with it, right? And um, I just didn't want that for my kids. I really wanted, um, my kids to have the opportunity to learn, to discover themselves and learn, like, who are you? Who has God created you to be? Aside from what other people think you should be, what flies around a group of kids, right? And just giving them that space because I could see, with my oldest daughter, she's a leader, but when she was 2 or 3, she was so easily influenced by other kids. Anything that other kids, especially older kids, anything that an older kid did, she followed them. She wanted to repeat what they did. Anything she could to fit in with them and be like them, even if she knew it was wrong. Like she would know not to run out into the street, but if that big kid ran into the street, she's running into the street behind them. And the day that I realized that, I was like, I can't put her into school until that habit has died. I need her to know right from wrong before I can throw her out into a world where she has to make 1,000 decisions a day about what to do. She needs to know what is the way I'm going to go, and then she can go out and she can go that way. Now she's 13. I could put her into any situation, and I know that she is going to hold true to who she is. Like she's
How
such a
long?
strong.
How long? How long did it take you? Because I personally, if I was going to go into like me planning to go into homeschooling, I'm thinking maybe like 4 to 5 years, like the beginning stages, right? 4 to 5 to maybe 4 to 6, like 4 to 6 years of their lives. I would definitely like be the one like leading that area. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm thinking like, how long did you put her in homeschooling, like for your first child?
So we're still, I mean, we still homeschool. We're not planning to stop. They did, my two oldest kids went to daycare until they were 3 and 5, respectively. And then I pulled them out and I've kept them home ever since. Daycare was different for me, though, than school. You know, daycare was just this fun place where they went, they played, they learned some really important key skills. It was not, I didn't have any sort of problems with what was going on there the way I might with a school. Um, I wanted to just circle back to something else you said about, you know, the pandemic and homeschooling, though. Um, a lot of people are homeschooling now because of the pandemic. There's been a
Yeah.
huge spike in people pulling their kids out of school
Mhm.
um, and homeschooling them. And I think what I'm seeing, you know, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups where I'm seeing a lot of people who are new to homeschooling.
Yeah.
And what people are realizing is that their kids were falling through the cracks at school.
Yes.
Um, one thing, and that their kids also have a lot of anxiety about the way things were at school. And they're coming home, and their parents are now seeing, like, oh, my kid can't read or write as well as I thought they could, or my kid is not understanding these basic principles of math that are needed to do these higher things. And this, they've sort of fallen through the cracks because the teacher has had to move on, but my child hasn't necessarily gotten to the point where they've grasped that skill, and now they have all this anxiety because they're just pretending that they get it, but they don't get it. They're pretending they
Yeah.
do extra work on this area, but they do. And I think parents are now, they're getting this glimpse into their kids. They're understanding, you know, their kids' struggles in a way that they never have before. And they're like, okay,
Mhm.
how do I help my kids through this? And then they're starting to see their kids calm down and relax um, and just be able to say, you know, it's okay that I don't know this. I'm going to keep working on it. Like, and
Mhm.
they're not necessarily happy about it, but they're saying, like, okay, the
Mhm.
pressure is kind of off. I can just sort of
Mhm.
pause here, you know, grow in this area at my own speed before I get rushed to do something else. And so I
Mhm.
think that the pandemic has provided, you know, a really great opportunity for people to, you know, to develop these relationships with their kids and have this insight into their kids' academic lives that they weren't getting before. And that,
Mhm.
you know, it's two-sided, right? Because I think in some ways school kind of cuts parents out and they say, you know, okay, we're taking these kids. This is what we're going to teach them. These are our methods. Don't question us. This is how it has to be. And at the same time, parents are too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed to really, you know, push the schools for that like ability to be included in their child's learning curve, right? So parents just trust that the schools are, you know, keeping tabs on these things, that you know where my kid's at, you're doing the best thing for them. And they don't have the ability, or like the time, the capacity to know how their child is learning, how they're doing in school. So I think the pandemic has opened up that opportunity. um,
Yeah.
of course, there's lots of challenges too, right?
The
It's not all
question,
good, but there's a lot
the,
of
the
challenges.
question,
Thing.
yeah, the question I actually have, right, for you, even as regards what you just said, is what can they do though? Because the thing is, they're not taking advantage of the opportunity. The opportunity is there, right? But the lapses and the gaps are still there
Mhm.
in the mind of the parents, and even with the relationship between the mother or the father, the parents and the children, the gaps are still very glaring, even with the opportunity that the pandemic has given to us.
Yeah.
So the question I'm thinking is like, what can be done? Is it a knowledge gap? Right? Is it a knowledge gap? Is this something that these parents don't know that they need to know? Do you see what I'm saying? So what do you have to say as regards that?
So, are you referring to the gap in the parents' ability to educate their children, or the parents' ability to connect with their children?
I think it's both. Both.
Hmm.
Education. I mean, for education, I don't mean like, I don't mean math, right? I don't mean the education in it. I don't mean academic. I mean education. Do you see? I mean education in itself. So I'm thinking of both of the situations. What can be done? Is it a knowledge gap? How can that knowledge gap be closed?
Mhm. And are you thinking of sort of in general, or with parents specifically who are trying to who have their kids at home now because of the pandemic?
Yes, the parents majorly.
Sorry, parents in
Parents
general.
majorly parents.
Okay.
We're talking about majorly for the parents.
Okay. So in general, yeah.
No, not in general though, but I need the parents, like especially for the parents. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay. But are you thinking in terms of like right now with the pandemic?
I'm thinking general, not just the pandemic, both the pandemic and without the pandemic.
Okay. You know, I think right now it's really hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard because parents are sort of being asked to take on roles that they maybe didn't want to take on, that they weren't prepared to take on. They don't have any experience in that area, but they're at the same time they're still trying to balance everything else. Okay, so you know, for our family, not a lot changed. I was always working from home. My kids were always at home. So the only thing that changed is that my kids are not socializing as much. I used to get a break because they would go to their friends a lot more. So that's really the only thing that changed for us. But for some families, it's been this like epic change, right? Like they used to go to work, maybe mom and dad both went to work, kids went to school all day, all these different things. And all of a sudden it's like, no, everybody's staying home. You know, parents, you're at home, you have to work from home, get everything done the way you did before, but you also have to take care of your kids at the same time and educate them.
Mhm.
And and maybe that means like overseeing online learning. I know, you know, have my husband is from Nigeria, so I have family there, and I know that a lot of the schools there, like they unrolled online learning platforms where the teachers are interacting with the kids either through Zoom or similar things. Um, but the parents still have to oversee that, and you know, you think about it, you think of like a 6-year-old kid, you know, trying to grapple with this huge change in their life and all of this new technology and all the things that they're expected to keep up on, you know, expectations and checklists and copious amounts of work. I have a friend in the States, and her county just shut down again last week, and the schools are closed. And she has a teaching background herself, but her 3 kids have come home, and they have stacks like this of work they're supposed to do. 2 weeks of work, it's like over 100 pages for a 6-year-old kid. And on top of that, her and her husband have to do their jobs, right? So this is really difficult for parents. Parents didn't ask for this, and they didn't have a chance to prepare for that. How do you prepare for that? You know, a 6-year-old kid, if your oldest kid is 6, they need supervision almost all of the time.
Yeah.
It's different in my house. I have a teenager, right? So I can go and say, okay, I'm going to go and work right now. My teenager can be teaching my 6-year-old, right? Or my 3-year-old. So it's almost like having a mini adult in the house. So I think parents have to give themselves a break, first of all. Like you need to just say, you need to like take a deep breath and say, this is a lot, you know?
Mhm.
And if I'm struggling right now, that's totally okay. Um,
Mhm.
this is hard, and I don't think anybody is not struggling with it.
Yeah.
I think I think that's the first thing. The second thing is really balancing the expectations of the school, right? Like if you are homeschooling is very different from online learning. Okay,
Mhm.
if your kids are um, you know, working online with a teacher, they're doing their Zoom classes, and then they have to go and do their homework. And as a parent, you're responsible for enforcing that. That's very different from what I do as a homeschooler. Because as a
Mhm.
homeschooler, I am the teacher. I decide what my kids are going to learn, when they're going to learn it, how much we're going to do each day. If I say, you know, we're taking the day off, we're just going to play outside and make paintings and listen to music or whatever, I can do that. Nobody is going to tell me I can't do that. So you can see, like, I'm able to have so much more balance in my position, whereas a
Mhm.
parent is trying to work and enforce a young child to do all of these things that are not natural for a young child to do. It's very difficult. So I think they need to give themselves a break. They need to look at the expectations of the school and say, is this reasonable? Is it reasonable to expect this from a child of this age? Is it necessary? Um, and then if it's not, like, to push back, and talk to the teacher and say, what else can we do here? Because this is really not a reasonable expectation of my child, and I don't think this is a healthy. I don't think this is a healthy use of their time. Maybe to be doing all of this homework, all of this worksheets. Is there another way we can do this? Schools, they're just trying to figure this stuff out too, right? Teachers, they've been put into this position where they've always taught live, right? They've taught in a classroom with children and interaction, and now they're trying to teach in a way that is completely new to them. A lot of times what they just want is to check boxes, right? Like, okay, I can see that the kid has done this much work, but who does that serve? Usually it's just serving the government, right? That the government can say, yes, kids are getting all this work done. It's not serving the parents or the family or the kids or the teachers. So we need to challenge that, and we need to advocate for our kids. If our kids are being stressed out by what they're being asked to do, we need to advocate for them and say, this isn't working. And depending on, the laws wherever you live, some places homeschooling is not legal. It's not legal to keep the kids out of school. So that's, a very serious consideration. I would hope that most governments and schools are um, being flexible during this time, and that they're open to, because of the lack of options that we have, right? Um, but I would really just encourage people to, if all of that is too overwhelming, to say, how else can we do this? Look for new solutions, look for ways to reduce the stress and anxiety in your family, for your kids and for yourself. And kids, 6 months or a year of, not doing this sort of rigorous academic work every day is not going to hurt anybody. Um,
Yeah.
Keeping your kids home, surrounding them with books, educational movies and shows, going for walks, doing art, listening to people podcasts. It's not going to hurt anybody. Just let them explore as the kids. It's just really, it's only going to benefit them.
Yes.
So I think as far as like actual education goes, those are the things that we need to be focused on right now.
Mm, that makes a lot of sense. So I was gonna ask you, like, I think it's important. Okay, for one of the things that we do, I usually tell even my clients that whenever you want to impact, whenever you look at a community, whether you want to impact children, whether you want to impact parents, whether you want to impact mothers, women, girls, boys, whatever kind of people you want to impact, you must look back before you look forward, right?
Mm.
So, what is that thing that you would like to embed in your parenting that you probably did not get while you were growing up,
Mhm.
in your
I think
own child?
it's really important because so much of the decisions that we make as parents are reflections of how we were raised. And either we, loved our childhoods and thought they were amazing and we want to replicate that experience for our kids, or we didn't. And we saw, all of these flaws and gaps and we want to correct that for our kids. Um, and of course, like with everything, the key is to find the balance, right?
Yeah.
Because you can totally go overboard in either direction. So you have to always be like in touch with, your own kids, your own family, yourself, um, and and just make sure that things are flowing smoothly and reevaluating how things are going. For my, there's a book, um, Parenting from the Inside Out, and
Mm,
that it addresses that topic. Looking at your childhood and how it's going to impact your parenting choices. Um, for myself personally, my childhood was very different from what my kids are experiencing, almost the opposite. So I have one sibling, but she's much older than me. She's almost 10 years older than me. So I really grew up as an only child, and I grew up with a single mother. So it was just me and my mom basically. And my mom, she worked full time. She did all of the parenting duties herself. So she was very tired. At the end of the day, she didn't have the energy or the capacity to engage with me fully. It was just survival mode all the time, which is not, it's not her fault.
Yes.
Uh, she did everything she could. She tried so
Yes.
hard,
Yes.
but we all get tired. We're human, and it was a struggle. So um, I always knew that when I always wanted a big family. I wanted like people. I wanted kids and noise and laughter. It's funny because now I'm like, be quiet. I forget that I I grew up like so often. I was alone. I just loved. I really enjoyed quiet and solitude. I had so much time to think, and now I don't have any time to think. And um so now I'm like, that's what I want more than anything, is to just be alone, to have a full thought. And I don't ever get it, but um that's a balance as well, right? But I knew that I wanted to have a family, and I wanted to have really healthy relationships with my kids, that would last for our lifetimes. And I
Yes.
knew, I sort of, I don't know why, but I always knew that that started from the very beginning, that you had to sow those seeds very early
Mm,
and then nurture them. And I, like I said before, I really wanted my kids to have a chance to discover who they were before the world told them who they were supposed to be. Because
mm,
I felt like, because of my school experiences and always trying to fit in, I felt like I struggled with that forever. Like even today, I still am like, every day, who am I? Who am I? Who do I want to be? You know, what parts of me am I holding on to that were given to me by somebody else, that aren't
mm,
really true to who I am, who I was created to be? Whether that's beliefs about myself, or like self-limiting thoughts, or even things that like I think I can or can't do, because people told me that I could or couldn't do them. So I'm still, I'm in my 30s now, and I'm still like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And my kids, I just didn't want that for them. I wanted them to like know who they are and have the space to figure that out. Um, so yeah, that's just what I try to create. I try to not define for my kids who they are, but to just like watch them and observe them and say, oh, I really see this thing in you. Do you see
mm,
this? Is this a
mm.
part of you that is important, that you want to grow? And how can we look for opportunities to, um, develop that in you? Always trying to find the good, even if they do something that seems selfish or short-sighted. They're kids, right? So they're just figuring things out, but always seeing like, what was the intention there? What was the thought behind that? And how can I nurture that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good. So, in a nutshell, you're saying that like the best way to build a healthy relationship with your child or your children is finding out who God has called them to be and nurturing it. And like the season, I think from what you said to me, I'm seeing like a situation whereby like who they were when they were 1 year and 2 years or like 3 years, like it just keeps getting better and it just keeps like different versions of them just start to show up every single time. So you just being able to leverage on it and seeing this is negative, this should go, this is positive, this should stay. That is phenomenal. I was gonna say something. There are parents listening to that are going to listen to this, right? That um, probably were not able to start the way you started, right? You started quite early, right? So maybe their kids are like 5, 6. Like I have parents reach out to me now. They're super worried. My child is 9. My child is 7. My child is 10. What can I do differently? Like I wasn't able to start early because if my parents, like this is not like I love my parents like so much, but and there's no buts about it. Like the thing is, if at the age of 10 they were able to like catch whatever was going on right in my childhood and help out, maybe things would have things would have turned around, right? And my self-esteem all the self-esteem issues I had to deal with, I will not have dealt with them, you see. So I'm asking now, like, what would you have to share to like parents that 9 years they have they didn't start early? What do you think you can do now?
Yeah. So I think, I was thinking about this earlier, and what you pulled out there at the beginning of that, I think is the key. I think as humans, and I think especially probably as women, especially
Mm-hmm.
if we're leaders, we are
Mm-hmm.
used to being in control. We're used to being able to control a lot of things around us, and saying, like, whether it's our home or our career, our businesses, we say, this is my vision for how this thing is going to go. These are the steps I'm going to take to get there. And at the end we end up with something that looks somewhat similar to how we thought it would look at the beginning.
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't do that with our kids.
Yeah.
And I think we don't get that. We want to control our kids. We want our kids to be who we think they should be. And I see this even with, I have a lot of friends who are older, like in their 60s and 70s, and 50s and I see, even with their adult children, they're still like, oh, this is what they should do. And I'm like, but
Mm-hmm.
grown-ups, they get to
Oh, by the
decide.
way,
You don't get to.
let me tell you this one. My mom recently just told me that as I'm coming back home, because as I'm coming back to the house for this Christmas, I should bring husband to the house.
Like, they're grown-ups. We don't get to decide. You don't get to keep saying that. But even as kids, right? So here's what I think is important, is like to look at your kids differently. So your kids are not a ball of clay that you're forming into something that you have a vision for, right? There's somebody else that's already created that vision for them before they were born, and they are being molded by God, right? Your kids are, a garden that have been put into your possession to nourish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to nurture. So you don't get to decide who they're going to be or what they're going to do with their lives. And you know what? Like, thank God. Thank God that pressure is not on you as the parent to make all those decisions, because that's huge. Like, that would be too much. That's asking you to be God, right? God has already done that work, but your job is to create the best possible environment
Yeah.
that um, can nourish that person that God has created them to be. So if you're already in this and you're struggling and you're like, we don't have a good relationship and my kid is not thriving, you have to ask yourself, like, what are you feeding them, right? Like, how are you fertilizing them? How are you nourishing their minds and their bodies and their spirits? And like, are you watering them with love in ways that they can receive it? And are you pruning things out of their life that is holding them back? Whatever that might look like. Um, so I just had, like, a few specific examples of what that looks like for me. I think these things they're universal. It's going to look a little bit different for everybody. I think it's really important, read about the 5 love languages. Not sure, if people are familiar with that, but basically 5 different ways that people can give and receive love. So like physical touch, um, encouraging words, like saying, I love you, or you did a really great job, quality time together, gifts, and then acts of service. So like things that you do for the people that you love. And it's important to remember that everybody gives and receives love in different ways, right? So for me, you know, the way that I feel the most loved is like if people want to spend quality time with me. If someone says, like, I want to spend a whole day with you, I think, oh, I'm really important to this person. And acts of service, like if someone does something like makes me dinner, I feel like, oh, you really love me. You took the time to cook for me. You know, words are nice, but they don't resonate with me in the same way. Gifts, I mean, gifts are growing on me if they're, like,
Girl, let me tell you something, girl. Just send me great words. Are we good?
right. Everybody know they have their thing. I used to say gifts don't mean anything to me, but what I mean is, like, a big fancy gift, it doesn't mean anything to me. But like, I had a friend, a very close friend. She bought me a dress, just like a regular dress, but it suited me so well. And I said like, wow, you really know me. You really love me to know, to feel comfortable buying this dress for me. That's a really good friend there. But we have to look when we want to love somebody and show them that we love them. We have to say, how does this person feel loved? Not how do I want to love them, but how do they receive love? Because if somebody's love language is physical touch and you keep giving them gifts, they're not getting your message. You're speaking a different, right? And with kids speak all of the languages, right? Like they're just growing. They can receive love in all of those ways. And until you know for each specific kid how they receive love, it's different for each kid. You got to shower them with love in all of those ways, right? You have to build them up with words. You have to hug them. You have to kiss them, pat them on the back, hold their hand, spend time with them, give them little gifts that show how much they mean to you, that you were listening to their desires. And then you start to see, differences. Like maybe this one really needs quality time and this one really needs physical touch. But until you see those things, you can't take a chance, right? You got to give them all of that. And then you really need to listen to them, right? Like listen to what your kids are telling you, either through their words or their verbal cues. And it's hard, like it's really hard for kids and even adults to express their needs and because they don't even necessarily know. But if a kid is having a meltdown, for example, and they can't talk through it, you have to just sort of say like, what is really at the core here, and not like, like I have a 3-year-old, he has meltdowns every day. And it's like, okay, he's melting down because this piece of Lego won't stick to that other piece of Lego. And I could look at that like, man, get over it. Like, it's just a piece of Lego. But if I look at him and I see like, oh, he's melting down because I haven't talked to him in an hour. I haven't hugged him since lunchtime. I have to you have to know your kids in that way and say like, what is really at the core of this? And as they get older, you know, their struggles are going to be more complex. So one thing I do with my older kids is we have a journal, and it's like a shared journal. So we can write notes to each other in it, and they can tell me anything in their journal, like things that they don't feel comfortable saying out loud. Especially, if you have multiple kids like I do, it's not like a confession, right? There's not a place where you can go and have this absolute privacy. And this one can say, it really hurts me when my sister does that. So they can write that in their journal. They can say, I'm really jealous because, you spent this time with my sister. You didn't spend any time with me. Or, I'm worried about my best friend because I think that, some stuff is going on with them and I don't know what to do about it. So anything they want, they can talk about it. They put the journal under my pillow. I write in it. I read it. I write in it. I put it under their pillow. Nobody else reads that, right? Like it's just this private dialogue, and they feel safe. They feel safe expressing themselves in that way. I think also, it's really important to pray over your relationship with your kids. Whenever you have a chance to just pray. That you would communicate well, pray that you would forgive each other, because you're both making a lot of mistakes, right? And just pray that you'd be able to forgive each other. I think kids teach us how to forgive. They're so forgiving. And we want to hold on to these grudges, and we're afraid that they're going to hold on to these grudges, but they don't. Like, they're so forgiving. So just, I'm praying that God would just show you how to nurture them, like that he would reveal to you, maybe their spiritual gifts, that he would reveal to you the kinds of things that he's trying to draw out in them through their experiences, so that you can partner with him in that, right? Because you're watching them for him, it's not you, right? Like, they're his and you're just taking care of them. So you really need insight. And then of course, looking at yourself and saying, maybe you've got too much going on in your life. I'm super guilty of this. I always let things creep in, and then I get really stressed out and agitated with my kids because they're interrupting me, or I'm not able to get the things done that I want to get done. And so we have to look at like, what do you need to prune from your life to make yourself more available to your kids? So if your kids are always trying to come and like talk to you or connect with you, or maybe they've given up on that and maybe they're acting out in different ways because they haven't been able to get their attention in that way. Now they're starting to act out or they're becoming apathetic. We need to look at like, what can we prune from our own life so that we can really invest in our kids right now, you know, because it's short. Like, it's short. Childhood is short, and
Yeah.
so it's 18 years, and I and like that can it seems sounds like a long time, but it flies by. Like, it's so fast. It's so fast. Like, my daughter is, 13, and it just feels like she was a baby. You know, she was just
I
a baby. She was
know.
just my baby, and now she's 13. Like, that's 5 more years of childhood left, right? And we want to squeeze everything out of them. Like, and it's like all of these things, like where do I need to look? Like, what is she not prepared for yet? And how are we going to prepare for that? Right? Like, how is she going to be ready to go to university and, like, go out into the world and, support herself and bless people and all of these things. And, just constantly looking at, you know, what's the next thing that we need to work on here in your development as a person, right?
So good. So what makes parenting fun and enjoyable?
So I think it's important to remember that parenting, like, no matter what, it's not always fun and enjoyable. It is not. Like, a lot of times it's just like really hard work, and it's not very rewarding. Um, like, at the day-to-day level, right? Like, I'm just being honest here. There are so many days where it's just like, why am I doing this to myself? Why? Like, I'll say to my husband, like, this is like the least satisfying job ever because the fruit comes so much later, you know. Um, so you really have to keep your eyes on the big picture. Like, where are we going with this? And even like recognizing that the hard days are still, important in their development. Like, if you think about like a little seedling that's growing in a garden, right? You have to protect it when it's little, right? Like, you put little row covers over it so that the rain and the wind doesn't kill it, right? But then as it gets older, um, that sort of like increase in, different kinds of weather, wind, rain, that sort of thing that kind of blows it around. Those are really important for the development of the plant because they're developing a thicker skin, like, literally they're toughening up and they're learning how to withstand bigger storms so that later, they'll just sort of learn how to sway when the storms hit them. And that's exactly how it is with kids, right? There's a lot of the storms get bigger, and you're protecting them and you're protecting them. But as they get older, you're sort of pulling off your protection a little bit so that they are developing that thicker skin. And you're not, it's all this process, right? And some days it's not fun at all. Like, it's miserable. But you just have to keep remembering, like, it's okay, it's okay. Um, but I think, parenting becomes a chore if we feel like our kids are interrupting something that's more important than whatever it is that they need us for. Um, C.S. Lewis said, uh, children are not an interruption to our most important work. They are our most important work.
They're the most important work.
They are our most important work. And it's for a season, right? Like, it's not like this is not your whole life. But if you choose to have children, in that season, they are your most important work. And so, everything else, it does need to be secondary to your children. Which is not to say that, like, like, if my friend is over and I'm talking to my friend and my kids are like, mommy, 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 look at this, mommy, do this, mommy. I'm not like, oh, okay, let me, let you monopolize every single situation. No, you need to learn manners. Like, you need to learn how to wait and to, interrupt politely. But like, ultimately, their needs supersede everything else in terms of importance, right? Like, if I had plans with a friend, but then something happened to my kid, like they had, a very like a negative experience that they needed to talk about, I'm going to cancel my plans with my friend, right? And if my friend is a true friend, my friend is a parent, they're going to understand that, my kid needs me. And that always comes first.
Yes.
Um, so I think like we have to change our mindset and like not take ourselves so seriously. Like we tend to feel like our work is like the most important thing that we're doing.
Mm,
But it's not. Our kids are in this season when our kids are kids, they are the most important thing that we're doing. Um, I think, kids themselves, though, kids are fun, right? And kids remind us how to have fun. Like,
mm,
like I have become pretty boring, to be honest. Like I'm an adult and I'm like, oh, we need to clean. We need to do our chores. We need to be responsible. We need to do our work now. We need to have a nap. Like I'm boring. I'm not fun. But I used to be fun. I used to like sing and dance and play and explore and do all these things, right? I wasn't always like, let's clean, let's clean, let's clean. Clean up your mess.
mm,
And kids remind us how to have fun, right? They're like, oh, let's have a dance party. Let's make muffins. Let's bake. Let's go for a walk. Let's take pictures. And like the more we let our kids influence us in that way, the more fun we have with them, right? So I try to like tune into them and see like what do they think is fun, what do they enjoy doing, and then meet them in that place. So just to give
mm,
you a couple of examples, so my two girls, like I don't like to watch TV really, but my kids really like TV, like most kids. And my girls got into this show, and it's called Austin and Ally. It's kind of like this old Disney show where this like teenage boy and teenage girl become pop stars, and it's all about like their adventures and stuff. And it's kind of silly, but it's got a good message. And they got really into it, and so I was like, okay, I could like look at it and be like, oh, they're watching that show again. It's so stupid, blah, blah, blah. They should be doing something more educational. But I was like, no, I'm going to get into this with you. So once a week, we have Austin and Ally night, right? Where we, whoever in the family is around, we all meet up Sunday night. And for an hour, we watch this show. We watch 3 episodes, we have snacks, and it's just funny. And then I'm like, okay, we're getting to the end of the season. So when this series ends, what night are we gonna have? Like what show are we gonna watch next, right? And then like, even introducing them to the things like, oh, like I watched a show that I think you guys will really like, so let's do this show next. And that gives us like a chance to bond. It gives us like a shared frame of reference, so that we have inside jokes with each other. So that's quite fun. Another thing that we do is like my kids are really into musical theater, and so 3 years ago, my older girls, they would have been like 8 and 9, or 8 and 10, and they were like, we want to write a play and then like have our friends over for a week and teach it to them, and then we want to put on a show in the backyard. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. I'm not having like all your friends over for a week. No way. And they kept saying it, and I was like, okay, tell you what, you write the play first and then we'll talk. And so they did. They went and they wrote 2 plays, and I was like, oh, no one's gonna want to come to this, you guys. Like no one's gonna let their kids come over for a week and do this. And I said, like, okay, we'll ask the parents and we'll see what they say. So we sent the email to like 30 people, and like we had 10 or 12 families that were like, yeah, we would totally let our kids do this, we're so excited. I'm like, oh shoot. And so we did it. Like I said, okay, have your friends over for a week and teach them these plays, and we'll have their parents over on Saturday night and you can put it on. And they did. And it was like this amazing experience. Like it was so much work, but it was amazing. And, I think my daughter turned 10 the week, my oldest daughter turned 10 the week that we did this. And my younger daughter would have been 9, or 8, 8 or 9. And they led their friends in this. They taught them everything. They choreographed it. They wrote music. They recorded the music. They edited it on the computer. They came up with costumes and props, and they organized this party. And I saw like right before the show, everyone got all nervous, and my little 10-year-old, she goes, I think we just all need to pray about this. Like that's really the only thing I can think of that's going to help this situation. So, she takes all of her friends inside and they're all holding hands and praying about it. And I was like, oh
Come
my God,
on, Jesus.
this is the best thing we ever did. Like, what if I'd said no to this? We would have really missed out.
Yeah.
And look how much my kids have grown in this one summer because of this thing. And so now we do it every year. It's grown into this big thing. Like I'm a writer, so I coach them through their writing, their plays. We write the songs together. My friend is, she's a musician and a composer, so she teaches them piano. She has them over, and she writes the notation for all of their music. We rent a church. We rent the church, and we record the music in the church, and it's amazing. It's so amazing how they've grown, and like it's opened up so many doors for them. So it's just like, how do I like looking at what your kids love and what they're passionate about and saying like, let's do this, like let's encourage this, and that takes energy. Like you have to have energy to do that.
I think
You
I
have to
think
take care of yourself so that you can get excited about these things. If you have nothing to give, you're just going to be like, no, I can't even imagine doing that. But then
mhm.
you're missing out. And it's like it doesn't have to be a big thing like that, right? I have my 3-year-old, and for him, like the most important thing in the world is like building these. He loves vehicles, and he likes to look at pictures of vehicles and then build them with Lego. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Like, let's lie down on the floor and build, a digger truck with Lego. And that has to be, in that moment, that has to be the most important thing in the world to me as well, right? Um,
I think this is like you literally just gave me some great ideas on how I'm going to be coaching my children, my students in school, right? Because I coach a school, right? So this
yeah,
is fantastic. I'm telling you, because I feel like all of this, if we embed all of these things even in our parenting, you'll find out that there's something beautiful to look forward to.
yes. And I think, that word that you used is so important, that you really are your kid's coach. Like you're coaching them through these things, even like whether you're a homeschooler or not. It's yes, you can be their teacher, but you might not be like their main teacher. It doesn't matter. You're always their coach. And a
Yes.
coach doesn't necessarily tell you, here are your goals and here's how you're gonna get to your goals. A coach draws things out of you, right? Like, they ask you the right questions and
Mhm.
they listen and they help you synthesize your thoughts and what you're saying. And they sort of, maybe they give suggestions or they say, have you thought about this?
Mm.
Your coach is not like, you're going to do this, 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 or else you're going to fail. Like a good coach doesn't do that, right? And so we have to think of ourselves in that way. Like we're guiding our kids, but we're not like steering them.
Yeah, this was phenomenal. I'm just glad we did this. I'm thinking of inviting you for something else, but it's me and you that will talk about we'll talk about it later because like broadly I feel like parents like there's more to this parenting than how you are seeing it. And you don't want a situation whereby your kids grow up and they have this hatred towards you. I mean, our next session for my children in school, we're going to be centered around what are your thoughts about your parents. And even with the conversations I've had so far, I've seen that parents don't have an idea what their kids think them as. Like you are thinking that your child is your best friend or two of you are best friends, but your child doesn't think like that. Your child is probably thinking like some other girl, some other boy is their best friend and it's not you. You think that you guys are close, right? So it's such a crazy situation. So we want to be able to put all of these things, prioritize these things. Like my children come after my husband, after God, after my husband, and then my kids before any other thing. Because like if God gave you the children, He obviously has like a purpose for that. So I'm glad we did this. I'm glad
Thanks.
we did this.
Um, I have, um, I have um, some resources that I can send to you, about this, some more ideas about just connecting with your kids. So I'll send that to you. Maybe you can put it in the comments.
Okay. You don't have a particular link that I can put it in now, so I can just put it as we're talking. Do you have the link with you?
Sure.
Send it to me on private chat here, so I can just put it on.
Okay, I'll send you this blog post here. And it says, how to connect with your tween daughters, but these ideas they're applicable to any kind of relationship you're trying to build with your kids, whether they're younger or older. This was sort of, the age that my kids were at when uh, I wrote it, but you can adapt these things to any kind of kids, any age of kids.
Okay. It's important. Even while I upload this on YouTube, I'm going to be putting your link there as well, like in the description below. Because for me, it's like so important, like anything to make sure that parents are getting it right. Because the society is being affected by crazy parenting, and
Mm-hmm.
we can do better. We can actually do better if we think about it. There's like lots and lots of things that we can do way better. So I'm really glad that we did this today. Let me scroll past for a short period, and let's do like a wrap up. So I want you to give like one advice, right? You're supposed to give, I don't even remember, but one advice that you would give to parents that want to enjoy a good relationship? Just one thing.
So I think that um, I think it comes down to what we have said a few times already, is that
Yeah.
we need to change our mindset about our kids,
Mm,
right? And not see our kids as like a project or something that we can control, or people that we're like, we have this vision for who they're going to be and we have to like mold them into that,
mm,
right? We need to realize that we're not in control of our kids. They belong to God. He created them for a purpose, just like he created us for a purpose.
mhm.
And we are like the gardeners who are just nurturing them and creating the best environment for them to to grow into that person God created them to
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on this. So
be.
I'm going to I'm going to include all the links that are necessary so that people can even reach out to you. Your Instagram handle. So I'll put it on the even your Instagram handle so that people can click on the link in your bio on Instagram and just get fed with all the resources that you have on this.
Perfect.
So thank you very much. I will send you a message now on Instagram. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, guys, I'm so glad we got to do this. This was phenomenal. Now, here's the thing. I remember so clearly when I had a speaking engagement, and all of these parents rushed. We did what I wish my parents knew for the fourth time or so. And I remember all of these parents rushed me, and then they were talking about, they said they wanted to buy our resources. So we gave them our resources to buy. And after doing that, guess what happens next? They did not open this audio, the video, things on building healthy relationship with your children. They did not open any one of it. So this is what I have to say to you right now. We're going to do like a 15 days challenge for parents, right? Inside of these 15 days, all you will need is 5 minutes, 5 minutes of your time for 15 days, right? 5 minutes of your time for 15 days, 5 minutes of your time for 15 days, just building healthy, just on the activities on building healthy relationships with your children. 15 days, and it's going for a very, very affordable fee of 8,500 all the way from 35K, right? All the way from 35,000 naira. You're going to have like personalized coaches that will go on this journey with you. Instead of you having to sit down to watch 1 hour video, to watch 5 hours videos on parenting, we're going to take you through the journey step by step by step. So I want you to use this link, use this, send an email using this link, right? Send an email using that link I just put now. Right? Send me a direct email and I'll send you the page where you get to register and you pay for the program. And you will find out that you are building a healthy relationship with your children despite all your own past experiences, the things you've had to go through. Do you see what I'm saying? All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this. I look forward to another time with you. Bye.